Good evening. Welcome back to the channel. This is Just Meek on Deck. And today we are going to continue on this theme of the rise of false prophets and testing the spirits to see whether they are of God. Because by doing this, my friends, you will see the error and the lies, and you will avoid swift destruction. But let's look at what the Bible says in 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 1 in regards to the rise of false prophets. It says, "But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies." Excuse me. "Even denying the Lord that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction." And in regards to testing the spirits, in 1 John chapter 4 verse 1, it says, "Behold, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world." Verse 2, "Hereby know ye the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesseth that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is of God. And every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now already is in the world." Okay, my friends. Let's get back to this discussion about why Muhammad would marry a 6-year-old child, and nobody seems to be upset about that, but look over it like that's a thing that's okay. Let's look at this article I found on the internet, and I have heard these stories before. When Obama was in office. But this article right here by the Social Contract Press, child molestation cornerstone of Islam. It says child molestation is not only widespread throughout the Muslim world, but is completely accepted as a standard practice by Muslim men. In fact, in 2012, Pentagon lawyers, at the request of the Obama administration, drafted the Army Manual, which forbade any criticism of child molestation by troops serving in Muslim countries. The 75-page handbook stated troops should avoid making derogatory comments about the Taliban, advocating women's rights, any criticism of pedophilia, directing any criticism towards Afghans, mentioning homosexuality and homosexual conduct, or anything related to Islam, the Judicial Watch reported. Of course, when speaking on the topic of pedophilia and Islamic culture, one cannot ignore the original coma, prison slang for child molester. The Prophet himself, Muhammad married his bride Aisha at age 6, but reportedly waited until she was 9 years old to deflower the youngster. In 2011, Muslim cleric Dr. Salah al-Fawzan tried to rationalize Muhammad's criminal behavior in the following rather laughable text. It says, "The story of the Prophet's marriage to Aisha reveals to us aspects like the Prophet's conduct with Aisha, and more importantly, the aspect regarding the relationship between the husband and wife, to show how one should treat his wife, just as the Prophet did with Aisha. We know that Aisha's mother went to take her down from the swing that she was playing on to fix her hair and prepare her for the prophet so he could enter her, have sex with her, and she did that all on the same day. It gets even more sickening. So you see, she was playing with her fellow playmates, even though her day of consummation was that very same day, and all that they did was to fix her up for the prophet so he could have sex with her. Now, what do we see when the prophet married Aisha? Did he go to her and say, okay, that's it, you're married, you're now grown up, you're supposed to be mature, and you need to do this and that, you need to forget about your toys and your little friends, you are now a wife of a man, you have to see to my needs, and that's it? No, the prophet allowed her to continue to play with her toy dolls. Indeed, the prophet even sometimes gave her such things to play with. This same Saudi cleric issued a fatwa stating that there should be no minimum requirement age for girls to marry, even if they are in the cradle. My God, people, infants, babies. The Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, even Yemen. Lord have mercy. And simply that they are capable of being placed beneath and bearing the weight of the men. Even if they are in the cradle, and simply that they are capable of being placed beneath and bearing the weight of the men. I had to read that again because my eyes cannot believe what I am reading. And in the tradition of the pedophile prophet, several so-called moderate Muslim countries have no minimum age for girls to marry, which I just read: Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. Several years ago, the minimum age for marriage in Yemen was 15, but that was abolished in '99. Unofficially, Yemen clerics agreed that puberty begins at the age of 9. Therefore, that is when husbands should begin having sex with their child brides, according to a Human Rights Watch report. So I'm guessing all my young black brothers that ran over to Islam to become a Muslim are all right if a Muslim brother come knocking on your door, being attracted to your young daughter at 6 years old, first grade, and he tells you he wants to marry your baby. I guess you're all right with that. But let's even look at the story that I had mentioned, because I had heard this a couple of years ago about the Green Beret. What happened when I heard the story, this woman came crying to the soldiers because her son was being repeatedly raped by this police chief, and they stepped in and gave him a beat down and helped the woman, free her child from this man. But let's read this article in the San Diego Union Tribune. It says, during the last Afghan civil war, rival strongmen fought military battles over boys they desired, wrecking neighborhoods and lives with their violent lust. Some of those warlords later became U.S. allies in the fight against the Taliban, making the custom of baka-bazi, boy play, their dirty secret of the international counterinsurgency campaign. Now, an American Green Beret who refused to look the other way is fighting to save his Army career. Sergeant First Class Charles Martlin, a decorated Special Operations soldier, beat an Afghan militiaman who kidnapped a 12-year-old boy and chained him to his bed as a sex slave. This very boy, his mom, just was at her wit's ends, crying, and she went crying to the soldiers, begging them for help, and they just couldn't take it no more. They'd been told to stay out of these things, but when this woman came crying, seeking for help, they did what they felt was right, and to go help free her son from this repeated abuse from this man. Let's finish this article. As with corruption, the opium trade, and other social ills that are pervasive in Afghanistan, one of the poorest, most war-torn countries in the world, U.S. military commanders are in a dilemma. They find the rampant sexual abuse of children repugnant, but they also need the help of local commanders and tribal leaders in the ongoing war against the Taliban and terrorist groups. Army policy dictated that U.S. soldiers should report criminal behavior to local authorities and let them handle it, but the local government was corrupt and ineffective, Martland said in a signed statement. I just read also another statement. I'm going to see if I can pull this up, where this lady went crying to the authorities about being raped, thinking she was going to get help. And the very people she went crying out to for help, the corrupt police department, the chief commissioner, ended up raping her himself. Lord have mercy. Can you imagine being a Muslim over there in those countries? See, these people over here in the black community that got swayed by this false prophet to go over into Islam, if they truly knew of everything or have been told of everything about this religion, I'm pretty sure that many of them would not have fell victim or would not have been deceived into following this religion, this made-up religion, which came out of the Catholic Church, which is another distinct feature that comes out of Catholicism, the abuse of boys. So I am not surprised that Muhammad would marry a 6-year-old, because who knows how long this practice has been going on within the Catholic Church, you know, with their statements of the men to and women to forbid, you know, being married or to be given in marriage, you know, which is not of God. And because of this, I think this is the very reason why they are molesting these children, you know. Okay, let's pick back up on this article. It says, our Afghan local police were committing atrocities and we were quickly losing the support of the local populace. The severity of the rapes and the lack of action by the Afghan government caused many of the locals to view our AOP as worse than the Taliban. If the locals resumed supporting the Taliban, attacks against U.S. forces would have increased dramatically, he said. Martland, an 11-year veteran and a Bronze Star recipient for valor in combat, was formally reprimanded for assaulting the Afghan local police commander in 2011 in Kunduz province. General Christopher Haas, then commander of Combined Forces Special Operations Component Command Afghanistan, called Martin's behavior unprofessional and inexcusable because they are following the dictates of Obama, whose code name is Renegade, and that tells you all. After an inquiry, the Army ruled that Martland would be involuntarily discharged from the Army no later than November 1st. Captain Daniel Quinn, Martland's team leader, who helped pummel the local police commander, was also pushed out of the service, which is just a tragedy. It's just a tragedy. Lord have mercy. But like I said, before you go following, I don't care what religion you seem to be lured to, you need to do your research and study and see if this thing is of God. Because like the word tells you, many false prophets have gone out into the world, and that spirit of Antichrist was around during the disciples' time, and it's around during our time. So my friends, time is short and we have to be vigilant, prayed up, and, you know, warn our brothers and sisters, because, you know, the devil is busy. He's been angry at all the things that I've been putting out, you know, because they are against the truth. You know, they are against the light. But guess what? We need to shout this from the mountaintops, because at the end of the day, it's about souls being saved. And that is the true gospel. Sin came into the world. Men fell into sin. God sent his only begotten Son to save us from the wrath that was upon us because of the fall of Adam and Eve into sin. And that is the only way you can be saved. I'm sorry. There is no other way. I know in Islam they say it's 7 paths. No, my friends, it's only one path, and that path is through Jesus Christ. He is the way, the truth, and the life. There is no way to the Father except through him. And that's how I'm going to end it, and I will see you on the next one.